I want to thank the CSL music team and Gary Lynn Floyd for the music today, and Gloria and I for reading. This is the final week in our 5-week series on the book Happier Now by Natalie Kogan. Each week is independent, and of course I hope you get a chance to watch the entire series. The one nice thing about YouTube and Facebook is that if you're traveling or if you miss a week, you can always catch up. And all of the links are available on our website. This week we're wrapping up our 3 weeks of investigating how we can anchor ourselves in happiness. And today we're concentrating on discovering our bigger why, the meaning and the meaningful moments of our lives. We're looking also at self-care and living with more self-acceptance and self-love. And finally, we'll be looking at how to become a force of good in the world. Imagine what might happen if you learned how to create your life so that you paid more attention to those moments that were meaningful to you and truly learned to savor them. And along the way, recognized how much acceptance and love you deserve. Because that's exactly what we're talking about today. But first, the question of the week. What is the one choice that you can make today to discover the bigger why? To live in self-acceptance and self-love, and to become a force of good in the world so as to be happier now. One more time. What is the one choice that you can make today to discover the bigger why, to live in self-acceptance and self-love, and to become a force of good in the world so as to be happier now? One of the anchors that Natalie Kogan suggests that we use for being happier now is what she calls the bigger why. Pablo Picasso described what that means in this brief sentence. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. I know that when I'm living in a manner of using the gifts that I've come to this planet to share, that I'm extremely happy. When I'm sharing my passion for things such as this wonderful philosophy of religious science, or music, or dancing, or singing, or travel, or stories about my grandkids, or any other of the joys in my life, I feel very much alive. Think of something you love doing, something you feel gives meaning to your life. And now remember a time when you shared that gift. Were you happy? I imagine you were. Martin Seligman, psychologist and author of Flourish, describes meaning this way. When your life is meaningful, you use your highest strengths and talents to belong to and serve something you believe is larger than the self. In other words, meaning is connecting the best of who we are with something outside of ourselves. Seligman goes on to say that meaning is really made up of 2 parts. It taps into our core strength, our natural skills, our virtues. And the second part is that it arises when we share those strengths, those skills, and those virtues with other people. I think that's exactly what Picasso was saying. The meaning of life is to find your gifts, to tap into your core strengths, your skills, your virtues. And the purpose of life is to give it away, to share your strengths, to share your skills, to share your virtues with other people. So you might be asking how we go about finding our strengths. The first thing to look at is, what are you good at? When do you feel most alive? And think about what other people in your life tell you that you're good at or compliment you around. There might be a lot of things that people say, wow, she's really good at that. Or you might remember a lot of compliments around a certain area of your life. That's a start, and it'll give you an inkling maybe of what your gifts might be. Another thing to examine is when you're communicating with other people and sharing things with others, when do you feel most alive? What are you talking about when you feel most alive? Paulo Coelho suggests that we treat our everyday lives as a pilgrimage that helps us discover what moves us and what's meaningful to us. He recommends being open to people and ideas and circumstances, anything that you encounter during your day. And then follow those things that you have an inkling to try, or those things that pique your interest. Natalie Kogan puts it this way: your path to finding what gives you meaning is a combination of being curious, interested, and open to opportunities and your effort to explore them. It does feel great to share our best qualities with other people, doesn't it? And to help other people when we're doing it. As you heard Gloria read today from the chapter on the bigger why, our answers to the question why touch on our core values, on why this is something that is important to us. From that awareness, we gain strength to keep going, even if our confidence lags behind. And we can't help other people or have the strength to keep going if we're not taking care of ourselves. So that leads us to our next anchor, self-care. Parker J. Palmer wrote this: self-care is never a selfless act. It is simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer others. We just talked about the gifts that we were put on earth to share. It's impossible to give those gifts if we neglect who we are and fail to take care of ourselves. I love the way the poet John O'Donohue put it. When you are compassionate with yourself, you trust in your soul, which you let guide your life. Your soul knows the geography of your destiny better than you do. How often do you fail to be compassionate to yourself? I think it's important for us to remember that self-care is not a bonus. It's essential in our lives if we're going to remain happy. We're wonderful self-critics. How often do you say to yourself, I don't like this about myself, or I don't like that, or I should have done this, or I should have done that? Self-acceptance is a huge step in self-care. The way that we recognize that we're worthy of living a happy life and worthy of love is to recognize the gifts and those qualities that we were just talking about. Those gifts that are given to us as our purpose and our meaning in life. And to recognize that we're the only ones that can share them. That we are uniquely qualified to fill the shoes of who we are. Natalie Kogan wrote this about self-care. It asks that you express gratitude to yourself for your strengths, your quirks, and your being. Self-care means extending the same kindness and compassion towards yourself as you would towards someone you care about. And remembering that you have a purpose to serve and that you can do it best when you nourish yourself and fuel your mind, body, and soul. The bottom line is this: we each deserve happiness. We deserve love. We deserve peace. And not because we're perfect or have achieved something, but because we are who we are. Self-love is about accepting yourself and seeing yourself clearly. All your flaws, all your mistakes, and yes, all of your awesomeness. Most of us have down that part of seeing our flaws and our mistakes. But how often do you notice how awesome you really are? Quit beating yourself up over those things that you didn't get done, or the way that you look, or whatever else it might be. And just start accepting and loving yourself just the way you are. I love the words of that opening song. I love myself the way I am, and I still want to grow. But change outside can only come when deep inside I know I'm beautiful and capable of being the best me I can. I love myself just the way I am. Start loving yourself just the way you are, knowing that, yes, you want to grow, but you also want to be in love with who you are right in this very moment. Deborah Day wrote this: nourishing yourself in a way that helps you blossom in the direction you want to go is attainable, and you are worth the effort. So start loving yourself as you are. Know that you can grow into recognizing all your gifts and all your awesomeness. And know that you can blossom into whatever direction you want to go. It is attainable, and you are worth the effort. Take the advice of Christy Ling. Caring for your body, mind, and spirit is your greatest and grandest responsibility. It's about listening to the needs of your soul and then honoring them. When we listen to the needs of our soul, one thing we know is that we are here to become a force of good in the world. A Holmes reading on meaning contains these words of our founding father, Ernest Holmes. Life flows into everything, through everything. It passes into every human event and translates itself through every human act. If you learn to think of life as flowing through your every action, you will soon discover that the things you give your attention to are quickened with new energy. For you are breathing the very essence of being into them. We breathe the very essence of being into those things on which we place our attention. And those things flow through us, having us feel alive. I was reading Spiritual Economics the other day and remembered that Eric Butterworth said we can learn a lot from this placid creature that's the oyster. Occasionally, little grains of sand work their way inside the shell and begin to irritate the oyster. The oyster tries to get rid of the sand, but when it discovers that it can't, it produces something that is priceless and beautiful in the world. It turns that irritation into a pearl. Can you imagine what the world would look like if whatever difficulties or losses or adversities we faced in our life, if we got busy pearling, turning those irritations into something beautiful, turning our self-doubt and our self-criticism into self-acceptance and self-love? Imagine if we each became a force of good in the world rather than allowing whatever is irritating us to take over our ability to create pearls of happiness. There's a beautiful saying of Buddha that I've always appreciated. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases, by being shared. Perhaps it's time we start shining and sharing our own light, our authentic light. What is it within you that you can share? How can you stand in the authenticity of who you are and share from that place of being so that other people feel empowered to do the same, so that other people feel empowered to be exactly who they are in the world? Think about that. So in summary, let's develop some anchors for happiness this week. Discover the bigger why. Find out what your bigger why is and give it away, because that gives you strength and resilience to keep going. Live in self-acceptance and self-love. Remember that self-care is not a bonus, nor is it selfish. It's essential. Love yourself just the way you are. Flaws, mistakes, and all your awesomeness as well. Become a force of good in the world. Stand in the authenticity of you. When irritations arise, start purling. So here's your affirmation for the week. How is it I so easily and willingly make the choice today to discover my bigger why, to live in self-acceptance and self-love, and to become a force of good in the world so as to be happier now? And your challenge for the week? Go on a pilgrimage each day to discover your bigger why. Take some time each day for self-care. Do something every day to show yourself that you are worthy of love, and love yourself. Become a force of good in the world by sharing you, the real, authentic you, that awesome you. And give yourself the gift of being happier now. Let's pray. As we take a deep, nourishing breath and just release any self-criticism, any self-doubt, and breathe in self-acceptance and self-love, we move into this space where we know the divine, where we know all that God is, the love, the joy, the peace, the ease, the comfort. And we recognize that as individual expressions of God, all that God is lives right within each of us. So what I know is that each of us recognizes that authentic self, that self that is worthy of acceptance and of love. That each of us is recognizing that who we are matters. So it's from the great gratitude of knowing that self-care is not selfish, from knowing that there is a reason why I'm on this planet and I can discover it and share it. From knowing that the God without is the God within each of us. And that God is moving through as each of us in every moment. So it's with all of that gratitude that I release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action. Because the divine has already called it good. Already said yes. Already shown that who we are is worth loving. So I can just say amen. and we affirm it together. And so it is.